And just curious too, with you, I know the Pitt community has been through a lot of transition and pivoting during this time, and curious to see how things are going at Pitt coming on to the out to the other side of the pandemic.
Yeah, thanks for asking. I appreciate it. It has definitely been a challenge. We've got a great community that has really united to get us through operationally through the pandemic. So as we're coming out now, I think I call it the new normal. I think our emphasis is to get back as much as possible and advisable to personal engagement and interaction. Certainly, I think the inability to do that largely through the pandemic served to emphasize just how valuable it is and just how much we all need it and value it. But at the same time, too, I mean, I think there are some lessons learned from the pandemic, things that that we can use moving forward to enhance our operations. And I think this, Bobbi, is a good example here today. I mean, in the past, we've done these things in person, which is great. But for example, being able to stream this out broadens our reach. One of the focuses this year is really on inclusivity for the Pitt campaign, and being able to, for example, reach all of our regional campuses and everyone in the Pitt community who may or may not have been able to show up in person. It's just one of those benefits of of the new normal.
Sure. Well, we're certainly happy to be a part of this, and we engage with the Pitt community in person in a lot of other ways, and look forward to continuing to do that this year as well.
Absolutely, me too. And we'll talk a little bit more about what we're up to, but certainly there will be a lot of in-person interaction. But before we get there, Bobbi, if you could just share with us why your work at the United Way is so important to you. You're obviously dedicating your career to its support. So I'd love to hear your perspective on that.
Yeah. Well, first and foremost, Dave, why it's important to me is because it's important to our community. As you see me decked out in my Pitt colors this morning, I'm a proud Pitt alum twice over, and I've worked in the nonprofit sector for over 30 years now, and almost 15, coming up on 15 of them with the United Way. And really, what is so critical and important about United Way in our community, what I call our superpower, is this ability to really look at the human service needs and challenges at a systemic level and bring together partners at Pitt, corporate partners, nonprofit partners, public sector partners, to spark collaboration and problem solving on those systemic problems. And it's really that being a part of this larger system and being able to engage people in ways that they choose, either through giving, through volunteering, through advocating to change certain policies or address needs in the community, is really what's special and enduring about United Way. And the fact that we engage in our region alone nearly 60,000 donors and volunteers each and every year. And this past year, we served through our roughly 100 nonprofit partners over 600,000, actually almost 700,000 people in our region last year. So for all of those reasons, the work is important, but mostly because it impacts so many lives in our community. And while we're talking about why it's important, I'm curious, particularly, this is my job. I happen to love it, and I think it's really important. But I'm curious to hear from you about why you took on this role in chairing the Pitt campaign this year, and why you chose to do that, Dave.
Well, so Bobbi, for me, I'll talk about my personal motivation, and then some institutional perspective. So, personally, I'm very blessed and very thankful for for my situation, and I'm very much in a mode personally of wanting to give back to support the community. I'm on the boards of two fantastic organizations that fall under the United Way umbrella, and I appreciate how much the United Way supports the organizations that I work with to try to make people's lives better. So it's a tremendous partnership, just aimed at providing that community support that you noted. From the institutional perspective, Pitt is a public institution, and a third of our mission is focused on supporting the community where we're situated, and we think about community from the very local to the very global. But certainly, this area is part of who we are, and supporting the community is very much centered and as a part of our mission. And there's a lot of things I love about the way that the United Way helps us do that. One is just the direct services that United Way provides through the general fund, the 211 service that helps people in acute times of crisis is something that I've been able to learn more about as I've gotten into this role, and that impact is profound. But just the hundreds of organizations that you support to make them more impactful in their roles is tremendous. And I'll just point out one more thing that I hope people in the Pitt community will really appreciate. Pitt does not have multiple. We don't allow for multiple asks of members of our community from the hundreds and hundreds of organizations that we all care so much about. Instead, what we do is to protect our time. We work with the United Way to funnel all of the asks into one campaign. So we don't have a new campaign kicking off every week. We have one annual campaign. This is our campaign, and the breadth of options for support that partnering with the United Way enables is something that I really appreciate.
That's great. And we really are thankful for your leadership this year. Dave, you had mentioned 211, and I just want to share with those who have joined us this morning that at the beginning of the pandemic, we saw a 100% increase in the contacts coming into 211. And you can call 211, you can text 211, you can chat, you can access it on the web. And one might think, oh, well, we're through the worst of the pandemic. Those contacts probably have come back down. They have not. So we have seen a doubling of those contacts, and they've really remained pretty consistent over time. So I just think it's another indicator as to what the need in the community is and how we can help connect those dots and get people the support they need. So I wanted to ask you as well, Dave, if you can tell us about some of the things that the Pitt United Way campaign is doing this year. I think I joked with you when we talked a little bit earlier that the Pitt campaign really, somebody asked me, what other universities do you work with, and how does Pitt stack up in terms of how the partnership plays out? And hands down, you think that the Pitt community is just a total exemplar of how we can work together in the community to create change. So I'm interested to hear from you. What do you have planned for the Pitt campaign this year?
Yeah, that's a great question. And Bobbi, I'm really pleased, but not surprised that Pitt stands out as an exemplar. I think it just shows you what a great community we have, a very caring community, one that's very supportive of each other. And I think that goes obviously beyond our campus boundaries. The theme that we're really pushing hard on this year is inclusion. We've had great participation in past years. But I'm really making as a point of emphasis to broaden the inclusivity of our campaign. So for one example, this is the first year that our campaign is united across all 5 of our campuses. In the past, we've sort of done things on a campus by campus basis, but we're really trying to work in full unison across all of our campuses And I think that will make our work much more impactful as we share best practices and support each other in that way. And I'm really excited about that. The other thing we're doing is we're working really hard to make sure that everyone in the Pitt community is aware of the campaign and has opportunities both to support the campaign and also to be supported by the United Way directly and the many organizations that it supports. And that's taking a variety of there's a we're working that in a variety of ways. One thing is, just for example, we don't all have the same sort of access to email. So whereas some people can't ever get away from email, others it's more of a challenge to access. And so what we're doing, for example, with staff who, for example, work night shifts on maintenance and operations, we're meeting them as they're coming off of shifts and as other folks are coming on to shifts to be able to talk with them in person about the United Way, about the services it provides and how they can be a part of it. We will quite literally have dozens and dozens of in-person engagement with folks to get the word out, and also bringing in outside speakers who lead particular organizations to share their stories and to get a more intimate understanding of the impact that the organizations that the United Way supports can have. We'll be making some direct visits with faculty in forums that are familiar and comfortable to them, like the faculty assembly. I'll be meeting with them later this week. So inclusivity is the big one, Bobbi. The other thing, though, that we are looking at is making sure that while we're offering people the opportunities to participate, that we avoid coercion. We don't want to make people uncomfortable or feel pressured, but really participate when it makes sense for them and when it's aligned with what they're trying to achieve in their own lives.
That makes absolute sense, and I really appreciate all the efforts that you're making and the various strategies you're implementing this year.
Yeah, so thanks. And Bobbi, in turn, I mean, you and your organization are incredibly helpful in helping us drive an impactful campaign, and I've seen that in person as I've been in many of those engagement sessions. But just at a really high level, besides those sort of micro activities, can you highlight some ways that you're providing to really help our full campus community take advantage of the year and make it special?
Sure. I think that sometimes we take a very narrow view of what philanthropy means in our communities, and it really goes well beyond writing a check or doing payroll deduction. And those things are important, and if you choose to do them, we greatly appreciate it. But there are so many other ways that you can engage, and we offer to the Pitt community in terms of volunteering. I think at the beginning of the school year, provided thousands and thousands of back to school supplies and kits to families who otherwise might not be able to afford them. We do multiple food packing events and personal hygiene kits for those who are in need. We have multiple days of caring events with our partner agencies in the community. And we have a couple of different deeper engagements with the racial wealth gap program and the poverty spiral simulation that we're also can make available to those in the Pitt community. And we regularly try to raise up. I always say that it's difficult to solve a problem or solve it well unless you understand it better. And it's difficult to honestly care about some of the issues unless you have a deeper understanding of them. So we regularly offer what we call the Question Before Us series. We have one coming up next week about the social and emotional health of kids who have really experienced a lot of tumult over the past couple of years. But I would encourage those from the Pitt community who might be interested in joining us for a question before us to take a deeper dive into some of the issues that we face as a community. And then beyond that, I would say that United Way has multiple committees and review teams to determine how we invest dollars in the community. And we would invite those members of the Pitt community who are interested in becoming more deeply connected with us to assist in those ways as well. So I think that we do offer multiple ways that, in addition to or aside from a financial contribution to the United Way campaign, that members of the Pitt community can really connect with and really better understand some of the issues and challenges and the solutions that we're working on in the community.
That's great, Bobbi. And I know that Kelly Gilliam and the folks that support her through the steering committee and the folks from my office that are providing so much support for the campaign this year are going to be working really hard to get the word out regarding those opportunities. And I'll just say to everyone listening here, don't hesitate to reach out to Kelly. Don't hesitate to reach out to myself. If you've got questions, you want to be pointed towards opportunities to experience some of the things that Bobbi just touched on. We want, again, on the theme of inclusivity, we want folks who are interested in participating in all the different ways that are on offer to be able to do so.
And you talked about including the regional campuses in the campaign and operating as one campaign this year, and excited to hear that. I'd mentioned that I'm a twice over Pitt alum, and I did my undergraduate at the University of Pittsburgh at Johnstown. So if any folks from UPJ are joining us this morning, I'd give you a shout out as well. But are there other elements to your regional campaign that you wanted to highlight, Dave?
Sure, absolutely. I think that go back to the new normal. I think the fact that we're doing, we're having this conversation on a YouTube thing that people can access either in real time or at their leisure is one way that we're expanding our reach out to the regional campuses. But we're also working with them as strong partners in unifying in messaging and communications, a common newsletter, and in terms of our aggregate goal of $750,000, which is what we're hoping to raise this year as a university, we're all contributing to that goal. I know that one of the ways we do that is through raffles, putting up experiences or swag that folks can bid on and contribute in that way. We're blanketing all of our campuses with those sorts of activities, and just sharing ideas about what fun and impactful things have worked in different campuses, and gleefully stealing the best ideas and sharing as real partners in that way.
Yeah. Imitation is the best form of flattery for sure. No need to invent new strategies that are successful elsewhere.
Oh, absolutely, Bobbi. One of the things that you had mentioned, you mentioned challenges associated with the pandemic, but certainly, as we look broadly across other societal issues that are pressing, certainly issues on racial equity and inclusion are front of all of our minds. Certainly, those are things that we're working hard at Pitt to make progress on. And I'm wondering what you're working on from your end at the United Way to help address those issues.
Yeah, so thanks for asking that question. And really, we deeply understand, the issues that we're working on in terms of meeting basic needs and moving people to greater financial stability and building for success in school and in life. These issues impact populations depending on race, gender, ability, age, disproportionately. And we really saw that during the pandemic. Both the health impacts, the educational impacts, the financial impacts were really disproportionate. And so United Way is escalating. It's always been on our radar, but escalating with every investment we make. We're looking at it through this lens of how does this particular investment in an agency or a program or a community-driven solution, how does that advance equity in our community across one of these domains: race, gender, ability, age? And it's really helped us more deeply focus. Even when I send grant recommendations to the board, they're seeing a summary of, and we're asking ourselves the question, how does this advance equity? And I think it's really embedding a much deeper sense and practice within our organization and within the community about how we're making these investments. But we're really lifting up. We just, during the pandemic, developed a new strategic plan that is focused on those 3 issues of meeting, moving, building that I just mentioned. But it's the foundation of that. 211 ties it all together with the data that we understand the community needs. And then the issue of equity is really foundational to that entire plan, because it makes no sense for us to invest in solving problems unless we're investing where that greatest need is, and unless we're investing to increase equity. So it's been a tremendous focus of ours over the last few years in particular, and we're really lifting that up to impact our work and to engage. During the pandemic, it was kind of amazing to see when vaccines first arrived on the scene that we were working with community agencies that we hadn't worked with before, and to provide summer and after school programs that we haven't worked with before. And it's a much more informed and much greater way to increase equity in our community is actually to work with those very grassroots organizations who know what the needs are in the community, who are trusted representatives of the community. So it's been a really strong focus for us, Dave.
That's great to hear, Bobbi. When I think about what really makes for impactful partnerships, it starts with a foundation of shared values, and clearly with your emphasis on really elevating, I think was your word, those critical issues. We are lockstep with that focus as well. So just one of many instances in which our values are very shared, very well aligned. And so it's not so surprising, circling back to just how impactful our partnership has been over the years, that's the case. So it's great to hear.
Yeah. So I appreciate you asking that question. And I will say there is a lot more work to be done in our region on that front. And we know that we don't always get it right, but we're working in partnership and learning and pushing forward.
Yeah, that's why I love that elevation, because we can't, we're not satisfied. We're not going to be satisfied, but we'll keep working and make that a continuing point of focus. Bobbi, this has been a great but very short conversation. 30 minutes can fly by when you're having a great conversation, but it's nice to be with you virtually, and I look forward to one day, hopefully not too far in the future, before this campaign wraps,
yes,
that we can be together in person.
Yes, I look forward to that, and I thank you very much for your leadership again, for those who joined us this morning, those who will be watching on a recorded line of this conversation. United Way really appreciates your partnership, and on behalf of the hundreds of thousands of people who are served in our community because of your giving, your volunteering, your advocating, we greatly appreciate it, and I thank you.
And I'll join you, Bobbi, in thanking everyone who's either listening by live or later on tape. Just appreciate your openness to supporting the campaign in all the various ways that's possible. And I look forward to an impactful and a lot of fun campaign. And it's great to be able to do this. So thanks, everybody. Have a great day.
Thank you all.
Take care.
I'm still here.